This episode of The Answer is Yes Baja Sessions is brought to you by Baja Bound Insurance Services. Driving to Mexico? You can buy and print out your Mexican auto insurance policy online in minutes with their easy-to-use website. They also have great travel information to help you plan your trip south of the border. Visit bajabound.com, the easiest way to get Mexican auto insurance.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Answer is Yes. And I know that I didn't say yes on Wednesday to the show. I was on a Christmas hangover for a couple days. So it's Friday. We're recording semi-live. I'm going to post this up this afternoon. But thanks for bearing with me as I took a couple days off. It's been a busy holiday season. Got the kids around here. We had a fantastic Christmas. And I hope that everybody that listens to this show had an equally fantastic Christmas. You know, this is the week where you start thinking about 2019 and your goals and creating visions for yourself. I know a lot of people are talking about getting into the gym and how they're going to make a bunch of money next year and all those different things. If you listen to the show, one of the things that I often talk about is what you believe is what you will achieve. That was a Mark Victor Hansen quote back in the probably late 70s. And I really think that works. So as you're coming into the new year and you start making your plans, just think about that. Dream big, think big. And know that if you do the work, and I actually mean the work, things will come into fruition. So I encourage you to write those goals down and get after it. We got a few more days till that big New Year's Eve party. And I look forward to hearing from everybody in 2019. We'll have a great show for you on January 2nd. And with that, speaking of, goals and things that we have going on next year, oftentimes I reflect back in my past and the things that I've done. And last night I was cleaning the garage, making sure everything was tidy after putting away the Christmas goods. And I was listening to some old music from the 80s. Yes, I'm an 80s generation guy. And it just was very fitting because today's guest is a big proponent of the 80s. So for my listeners that grew up, maybe your high school years in the 80s, we had some incredible music, I think. I was listening to new wave and punk rock and all those fun things. We also had some incredible fun movies that came out at the time. And again, it's very fitting for today's guest. And I want to introduce, I've got him on the line now. I want to introduce Chris Clews. Chris, how are you this morning? Yeah, it's my pleasure. And, I got your email and you started throwing out 80s movies and songs. And I just was flashing back and I thought, oh my God, when was the last time I heard some of those movies that you were mentioning? I mean, even E.T., Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, Beverly Hills Cop. My wife don't even know what these movies are, by the way, but I sure appreciated you bringing them up. Yeah. Yeah, and I think those movies are a testament to the acting, as you suggested, because a lot of those actors went on to play major roles throughout their careers, and many of them are around today still acting. You think about Nicolas Cage and a lot of the other big names out there. Same thing goes for the music, too. A lot of those 80s bands are doing reunion tours. They're still sticking around because of the actual talent involved in making the music and the movies. And one thing that I've noticed is now, and you're right, there's some great movies out, but sometimes I just feel so violated or traumatized after I leave the movies. Like, what did I just watch? Whereas in the 80s, I left feeling happy. I was ready to go party or go have a good time. It was a completely different feeling when I left the movies back then. Yeah. 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 Well, that is a wonderful teaser for how we're going to wrap this show up, and that's going to be talking about your book that has to do with the 80s. And I'm going to kind of leave it at that because I know once we give the title and everything, everybody's going to get that. But that's a teaser for the tail end of this show as we work our way through the interview. And as our listeners know, that our show is about saying yes to opportunities in our life and how we got to where we are today and some of the pitfalls and challenges of being there. And you're certainly one of those people that have taken some risks in the pre-show discussion we had. And I'd like to start here. You mentioned leaving your hometown with $300, burning a hole in your pocket, and heading to Florida from Baltimore? Yeah. Okay. So we want to hear that story because that sounds like where things really started to tune up for you. Yeah. So let me Chris, let me stop you there, and I do this often because you make some critical points. I think it's important for our thought process and our decision making in our lives. Here you are with $300, and I was thinking, wow, that $300 went a long ways. um, but you said you're gonna do this, and people doubted you, and they said you'd be back, right? And I'm just curious, in your mind, what gave you that confidence to tell them I'm not coming back? Because I'm like you, and I can't always put my finger on what it is that makes me be that way. So I'm wondering if you can, because that takes a lot of confidence in what you're doing to tell people I'm not coming back. Yeah, I feel like having a sense of pride and putting egos aside, that when you make a decision to do something, really standing behind that decision, not only for others but in your own mind too, because it gives you the strength to persevere in what you're going after. And in this case, you're looking for a new life down in Florida, and you're pursuing some type of career option. And I think that confidence within yourself allows you to get through the challenging times. And by the way, eating pasta without sauce is pretty good if you got a little a little something, a little butter or something. But no, I totally get it. Yeah, Yeah. Yeah. Although we haven't necessarily used those exact terms in a lot of the shows that I've done, but I would venture to say that most of my guests have been told that they couldn't do something and they ignored that and continued on, because I know I've lived that life. And I would say to people that are listening that are on the fence about doing something, and you've got people out there in your life saying you can't do that, know that if inside you feel like you can do it, you can, regardless of what other people say. At the end of the day, a lot of times that's jealousy, or they've got their own issues, is why they're telling you can't do it. They're scared. Exactly. You know, and oftentimes that comes from our parents. Even in our later years, I know oftentimes, I'm 50 now. I know oftentimes my mom will tell me I can't do something. I look at her like, really? I'm 50. You don't tell me what to do anymore. But a lot of people just can't see the vision that you can. And I want to encourage people to look through and look past the people that are telling them they can't. So, Chris, thanks for telling us about your brief jaunt down there. And so you took a job as a bellman at the Disneyland Hotel with your $300 in your pocket. Where did that lead you? What were your next steps? Yeah. Yeah. Big deal. Yeah. Yeah. It almost sounds like an 80's movie. Yeah. But you were hyper focused on what you wanted, and that was a marketing job, and you were willing to do whatever it took to get that. And in your mind, you had a path, and that was, I'm going to do whatever job I can get at Planet Hollywood so I can be closer to the marketing person. I think that is such a great lesson to learn about, focused on your goal and knowing that the path to get there might not always be the straight one, but as long as you have the path and you can see where that vision goes, and clearly you did, because I don't think most people think, I'm going to become a busboy so I can get closer to the marketing person.